Hello, welcome to A March for the Ages. I'm Emma Donaldson from St. James School. Our guest today is Miss Eleanor Dawkins. Thank you for joining us. Okay, first, what was it like growing up during the Civil Rights Movement?
From a teenager's point of view, it wasn't any different than any other time because we didn't know anything different. It was the same fun. We didn't have all the opportunities that we have today, but it was not the worst time in the world. There were things that we could not do, and we knew that we could not do them, and so it did not necessarily cause a problem. It's just a different world that we lived in as compared to today.
Your father, Rufus Lewis, played a tremendous role in helping black people with the right to vote. Can you remember how you felt about this impact in helping others and encouraging them?
My dad let me understand, or helped me understand, that in order to be a full-fledged citizen in our society, you had to have the right to vote, and you had to use that right. So I was proud of it. I didn't understand why everybody didn't do it, and I wanted to be able to vote myself as soon as I was old enough.
What was your proudest moment of your father as a teenager?
I think my very proudest moment was when he was appointed federal marshal for the Middle District of Alabama, and he was the first black to be given that appointment. I lived in Colorado at that time, and of course I came home for the celebration and the inauguration, and it was just wonderful. I probably smiled the whole weekend.
It's exciting.
So I was very proud.
Did you attend any of the school meetings or speeches that your dad held?
I did not go to the training. They were usually held in other people's homes where he was helping the people learn how to fill out the questionnaires that were necessary in order to become a registered voter. Today, you and I can register to vote by just going in, signing our names and addresses on a card, and that was all there was to it. But back then, there were pages and pages of questions that the applicant had to answer in order to become a registered voter. And most of the questions were very nebulous questions that really had no answers, and their purpose was to keep some people from becoming registered voters. So he would go to people's houses and help them study, if you will, so that they could pass that test. That was exciting.
Do you think now that it is easier for people to vote that more people should be voting?
Of course more people should be voting, but one of the things that is important for us to know and for us to share with our friends and family is simply we must all vote. The privilege is there, and it was a hard-fought battle to get to that point. People think today that their one vote won't make a difference, but actually, it actually does. It really does. And it's important for you and I to share with our young friends how important voting is.
It is. Were you ever afraid or frightened of being harmed during the Civil Rights Movement? Or?
I personally was never afraid, but during those days, our parents didn't share as much information with us. They wanted us to be protected, and so they wanted to know where we were and where we were going and how we were going to get there. During that time, there were several bombings, and our home house was very close to where Dr. King lived, and so that was one of the things that did cross our minds, or my parents' minds. But it wasn't a fear that you and I might feel today of someone breaking into our homes. It wasn't that kind of a fear. You just knew that some things could happen, so you tried to make sure that you were in the right place at the right time and never too alone.
Your father was a member of Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. Did you ever have a chance to hear Dr. Martin Luther King speak If so, what did he speak about?
I don't remember. It was a million years ago, if you will. But I do remember having met him and heard him speak. He had just come to Montgomery at that time, so he was a very, very young minister and was being introduced to the city. It was just a very interesting time. He was a very handsome young man with his new family, and we enjoyed getting to meet him.
I read an article that your dad was very organized and precise. What traits of your father do you feel have contributed to your success today?
I'm not quite as organized. I try to be. I'm not as concise. I still try to be. But I think his perseverance is the trait that I seem to have adopted. I will continue working on something until I can get it finished. He was very strong-willed, and I was definitely a daddy's girl, so it was important that I emulate the things that he did.
Do you remember where you were during the Selma-to-Montgomery March, or were you here? Or?
I was in Colorado. I had grown up, married, and moved.
Okay. Did you remember hearing a lot of stuff out in Colorado about it?
Yes, I did, and I felt very bad that I was not here to be a part of it. But I also paid close attention to the news and the information that I could get, and talked to my dad as often as I could.
Do you feel that you were called to education due to your parents' involvement in helping with educate others of the rights?
I don't know that I could say I was called to it. I was hunted down, if you will, when there was a need for someone in my district to run for school board. And I was given a much different description of what the job entailed than what it actually does entail, and I have learned a lot from then and since then. My parents were both teachers, and I was trained as a teacher, but I never wanted to teach. My goal was to do something totally different, because everybody that I knew, if you will, as a youngster growing up, all my parents' friends were teachers, and I didn't want to be a teacher. Those were one of the few, or some of the few, opportunities that were available for people in this part of the country, which was another reason why I happily left the area to sought more opportunities. I enjoyed living in other places as well.
What impact do you feel that the civil rights movement had on you as a young adult, and even to this day?
One of the very first things that I think was important to me was, as soon as I turned 21, I went and registered to vote. And I was amazed at how simple it was. I was living in California at that time, and all I did was go in and show my driver's license and sign my name and address, and I was done. And I hurried back home to call my dad to tell him that I had done it, because I was really proud of what I had accomplished. I also have made sure that as my children grew up, that was one of the first things that they did. But I just think that it is important for all of us to be a part of history, to be a part of the society, to take an active part. And if you are not registered to vote, your part is very limited. You don't have any say-so. And that's not good for a society that we live in today.
Do you feel that there were white people that were helpful to your father in his efforts for black people having the right to vote?
Oh, yes, yes. I don't know who they were, but I do know that without the help of the community and the citizens of this city, it would have never happened. Things were much, much different than they are today. And consequently, there were people that were very supportive, as there are today, people that are very supportive. But there were those that made the news that were not as supportive, and consequently, they made it difficult for everyone. Today, it is vitally important that we work together, just like my helping you, and you then helping my grandkids or great-grandkids at some point in life. We're all in the same world together. And the more we work together to solve our problems, the more successful we will be for everyone's benefit.
Do you remember having meetings in your home with your father there about different civil rights movements and about how it was going to happen?
I was not a part of the meetings, but I was home during some of it. And I don't know that you know this, but children were to be seen and not heard. And so I was not necessarily in the meeting. I should have been in another room. But there were meetings all the time. There were strategizing meetings that continued regularly, whether it was at a lunch or during a breakfast. There were plans being made, and that's a part of the organizing and strategizing that was the modus operandi of the day.
Were you excited about these meetings, or you just like...
I don't know that I knew to be excited. I knew that they were happening. I knew that there was a purpose behind them. I knew that it was very important. But in terms of knowing what necessarily the end result was, no, I'm not sure that I knew that.
What do you want people to remember most about your father, Rufus Lewis?
Well, he cared about people. He helped people. He would do anything that he could to help you make your life better. And he would go out of his way. Anybody that knew him knew that of him and knew that they could depend on him if he gave his word that he would do something. Having the library named after him, having his picture on the wall at the federal courthouse is truly an honor. And to be his one and only daughter or child, if you will, I am very proud of that, very, very much.
Do you feel that because of the civil rights movement that Montgomery is a better place now?
Oh, most definitely. And Montgomery will continue to become a better place. People are working together here more than ever before. And as a result, Montgomery stands out. It's not the largest city in the state, but from my vantage point, it is the best city in the state. And I am proud to be a member, a citizen here in Montgomery.
What can people or the citizens do to improve Montgomery more?
Well, they can do lots and lots of things. They can continue to work together. They can support education at all levels, from pre-K through post-secondary. Because without an educated mind, the people will perish. And there are all kinds of education. We just need to support our children, our young adults, and our adults becoming more and more educated about what this world is all about and how we can be productive in it.
Well, thank you, Ms. Dawkins, so much for joining us, and thank you for watching.